It's Monday, the 22nd of December, broadcasting from Urbis in the heart of Greater Manchester. This is Channel M's Lunchtime News, and these are today's headlines. Deathfall mystery. Police look at how a young woman plunged from an apartment block in Salford. Also this lunchtime, don't stop me smoking, the new demand from Moore's murderer Ian Brady. And carols at the monastery, a festive celebration in Gorton for the first time in decades.
We're having a fabulous Christmas celebration concert here at the monastery, really to celebrate all that's been achieved in the last 12 months, as well as celebrate this wonderful time of year.
Good afternoon. First this lunchtime, there's mystery over the death of a young woman in Salford. She plunged 150 feet from a luxury apartment block after her affair with a married businessman finished. Ben Bland has our top story.
The woman, who was in her 20s, fell from the 12th floor of one of these NV buildings here in Salford Quays. It's understood that she was dating a Greater Manchester property developer who was in his 30s, but that relationship ended and the man came here to her flat on Saturday night to collect his belongings. He asked police to accompany him because he feared there could be trouble. But he arrived before police and went into the flat to speak to her. Witnesses say there was no shouting or arguing, just a single scream as she plunged 150 feet. Paramedics tried to resuscitate her at the scene, but she died from multiple injuries. Neighbours have spoken of their shock about what's happened as we wait for more details to emerge. Police have interviewed the businessman, but as we understand it, they're treating this either as suicide or simply a terrible accident.
Thanks, Ben. A former royal butler from Staley Bridge is waiting to hear how long he'll spend in prison after admitting a string of child sex offences. Paul Kidd worked as a senior footman to the Queen Mum from 1979 to 1984. He even took one of his victims, who he introduced as a friend, for tea with her. He'd actually been assaulting the boy since the age of 14. Police only caught him when a victim came forward after seeing an interview he gave to a newspaper on the 10th anniversary of Princess Diana's death. An off-duty police officer has been left with a broken cheekbone after a serious assault in Rochdale. The 42-year-old was on his way home from work on Saturday morning when he saw a woman arguing with a man in Bamford. He went over to see if he could help and was hit with something by one of the men in the group. Moore's murderer Ian Brady has criticised the high-security hospital where he's locked up for banning him from smoking. It means he's been forced to quit his 60-a-day habit. Here's Andy Buckley.
Ian Brady, who's now 70, is serving a life sentence in Ashworth High Security Hospital in Merseyside. Along with Myra Hindley, he was jailed for life in 1966 for the murder of 5 children whose bodies were buried on Saddleworth Moor. In a letter to a friend, Brady is said to have complained about the smoking ban, saying it's taken away the only pleasure left in his life. Earlier this year, Merseycare Trust introduced a no-smoking policy, and because Brady's in a high-security hospital, he's not allowed to go outside to smoke. Brady has been force-fed since he went on hunger strike in 2001, and earlier this year complained that he was only getting £25 a week pocket money, while others he described as tramps and malingerers received £100.
Dozens of children have had their dream of meeting Father Christmas taken away after a flight from Manchester to Lapland was cancelled. The special one-day trip was called off because of safety concerns, just as families were about to board the plane on Saturday. The aircraft's captain took the decision because of snow on the runway in Lapland. A man's been shot in the leg in Salford. It happened on Saturday night. The 39-year-old victim's in a stable condition in hospital after the attack on Amersham Street in Pendleton. Every doctor in the country is to be trained to spot the first signs of dementia. It's part of a government plan to provide sufferers with a better quality of life. Memory clinics are to be set up in every major town where patients and their families can get treatment and support. It's thought 700,000 people across the UK suffer from the condition, though not all have been officially diagnosed. A group of residents in Oldham are facing an uncertain Christmas after failing in their High Court appeal to save their homes from the bulldozer. The Durka Action Group have lost out in their latest fight against Oldham Council's regeneration plan to demolish up to 588 properties. Georgia Calvin-Smith has been speaking to some of those affected.
Tony Proctor's lived on the same street in Durka for almost 30 years. He still lives there with his family and had planned to pass his home on to his children in the future. But after a lifetime of work, a £53 million regeneration scheme approved by the government could see his property being taken off him by the council in a deal that could force him out of his home and into substantial debt.
It's not affecting them. There's no compassion for anybody. All I'd want, if they do take my house down or take it off me, is fairness.
So you don't feel you've been treated fairly?
No, I haven't been treated fairly, no. They offered me £48,000. Now, if they want to give me £48,000, I'll give it them back and say, will you please find me an house for £48,000 and I'll move in it. I'm not against regeneration. I think it's good for an area if the houses are really run down, but my house is not run down.
The housing market renewal scheme was first mentioned to Derka residents in 2003, and since then people here have been uncertain about their future in their own homes. Many have already decided to sell up and move on rather than remain. Many of those left behind face compulsory purchase orders which could force them to take out loans to find new homes. But some locals are reluctant to accept the orders, as they think that regeneration of the area would be better served by the renovation rather than the demolition of houses. But despite voicing their objections, they feel ignored and overlooked by the council and fear that even if they do give up their homes, there's no guarantee that they'll be torn down.
Nobody will say whether some of the houses are going to be bought up, not demolished, refurbished and sold on to somebody else.
So do you feel that they are working in the best interest of the existing people or trying to get other people in?
No. One member of staff did actually say that they wanted that we would get a better class of people, which really gets up your nose.
Many of those who are being hit hardest are long-term residents and the elderly. The council is adamant that the HMR scheme will breathe fresh life into the area. But currently, the people who call this place home feel stifled and alienated by the plans. Georgia Calvin-Smith, Channel M News.
The head of Britain's anti-terror police has withdrawn his claim that the Conservative Party was behind a newspaper story that had forced the police officer to move his family out of their home. The Assistant Commissioner of the Met Police, Bob Quick, had said the story about his wife's business was a security risk. Mr Cameron says he's categorically guaranteeing the Conservatives were not behind the article, and this morning Mr Quick apologised unreservedly. There's bad feeling between the police and the party after the controversial arrest of Tory frontbencher Damien Green and the raid on his parliamentary office last month. A Labour live peer will be sentenced for dangerous driving later after admitting sending and receiving text messages on the M1 just before being involved in a crash that killed another driver. Lord Ahmed admitted the offence at Sheffield magistrates earlier this month. The smash happened near Rotherham last Christmas Day and killed Slovakian Martin Gombar, who was living in Lee at the time. Police have been accused of abusing their powers after sending a coachload of football fans home before a match at Old Trafford. Around 80 Stoke City supporters were ordered out of the railway pub in Earlham and back to Staffordshire. Officers claimed they were acting on intelligence about violence planned between rival gangs of hooligans. But supporters backed by the pub landlord say they weren't causing any trouble and their case has been taken up by the human rights group Liberty. Time now for a look at the lunchtime sports headlines. With those, here's Mike Bradley.
Thank you, James. Well, there were widely differing fortunes for our big two clubs at the weekend. Manchester City, news to come on them in a few moments. From United, they were officially crowned champions of the world following yesterday's 1-0 victory over Ecuadorian side LDU Quito. Sam Goodman has the details.
Over 62,000 people were in Yokohama to see the final. United dominated the match, but in the 49th minute, Nemanja Vidic was shown a straight red card for elbowing an opponent, denting the Reds' hopes of a victory. But in the 73rd minute, a lovely string of 10 passes found its way to Wayne Rooney to score the only goal of the game inside the 18-yard box, sparking mass celebrations from the travelling Reds fans. The effects of jet lag may be seen when United return today and face Stoke on Friday. But for now, when FIFA President Sepp Blatter handed over the trophy to captain Rio Ferdinand, it confirmed that United are not only the English champions, the European champions, but now officially champions of the world.
And we'll have a lot more from United's trip to Japan in our news bulletins later today and tomorrow. But as far as the Blues are concerned, well, they faced a difficult festive period after their 2-1 defeat against West Brom. That's left them in the bottom three, 1 point clear of safety and only 3 points off the Premiership's bottom spot. Here's Sam Goodman once again.
The £120 million Manchester City squad could not defeat bottom of the league West Brom, who took the lead through Luke Moore as he latched onto James Morrison's through ball. There was no Robinho for City, but it was a touch of brilliance from Felipe Caicedo as his deflected back heel found its way past a helpless Scott Carson, making it 2 goals in 2 games for the 20-year-old, definitely giving City fans something to cheer about. But things went downhill from there. An unmarked Roman Bednar scored in injury time, which means City are still in the relegation zone for the first time this season and means they've only won 1 game in 9 in the Premier League.
In the second test, England have been bowled out for 302, with India reaching 56 for 3 at tea, a lead of 207. Manchester Rugby Club are celebrating after recording their first win of the season. They beat neighbours Sedgley Park 16-12. Seb Moss's 70th minute try sealing the win and staying with Rugby Union. We'll have highlights from Sale's last Gaps defeat against Bath from 5 o'clock this afternoon. That's almost it from me for now. Just time to congratulate the Manchester Magic basketball team. They beat Sheffield Arrows 78-66 in the EBL League, where Brandon Kimbrough top scored with 21 points as the champions extended their winning run to 5 games. And also to congratulate Bury assistant boss Chris Wilder, who's just been named as Blue Square Premier outfit Oxford United's new manager. That's it from me for now. But be sure to join Sam. We'll be with you at 5 o'clock with some more sport.
Thanks very much, Mike. Still ahead on the Lunchtime News then, all the day's showbiz headlines and a special carol concert in Gorton for the first time in decades.
We're having a fabulous Christmas celebration concert here at the monastery, really to celebrate all that's been achieved in the last 12 months, as well as celebrate this wonderful time of year.
Welcome back to Channel M's Lunchtime News. We've got all of Greater Manchester's top stories for you between 12 and 1 o'clock. You can always find our main headlines online as well at channelm.co.uk. On there right now, the man thanking Manchester medics for a pioneering lung operation that saved his life, and workers leaving their offices behind for some Christmas celebrations. That's at channelm.co.uk. Back now to our top story this lunchtime and the investigation into the death of a young woman in Salford. She plunged 150 feet from a luxury apartment block after her affair with a married businessman finished. Ben Bland has more details.
The woman, who was in her 20s, fell from the 12th floor of one of these NV buildings here in Salford Quays. It's understood that she was dating a Greater Manchester property developer who was in his 30s, but that relationship ended and the man came here to her flat on Saturday night to collect his belongings. He asked police to accompany him because he feared there could be trouble, but he arrived before police and went into the flat to speak to her. Witnesses say there was no shouting or arguing, just a single scream as she plunged 150 feet. Paramedics tried to resuscitate her at the scene, but she died from multiple injuries. Neighbours have spoken of their shock about what's happened as we wait for more details to emerge. Police have interviewed the businessman, but as we understand it, they're treating this either as suicide or simply a terrible accident.
3 teenagers are appearing in court charged with the rape of a 16-year-old girl in Rochdale last May. Imtiaz Saeed from Ellesmere Street and Tayyab Hussain of Henry Street, along with a 17-year-old, are accused of raping the girl at a house. A 16-year-old is charged with aiding and abetting sexual assault, and Mohammed Raja of Free Trade Street, also in Rochdale, is charged with perverting the course of justice. The name of a man who died when his car crashed into railings in Castleton's been released. He was John Kane of Thomas Henshaw Court in Rochdale. The accident happened on Manchester Road in the early hours of yesterday morning. The 59-year-old who was driving a Vauxhall Corsa died at the scene. No other vehicles were involved. Police are looking for a witness who may have prevented a 16-year-old girl from being sexually assaulted in Gorton. The victim was attacked as she turned into a passageway off Knutsford Road. A boy who was with a group near the entrance to Sunnybrow Park shouted over and the offender then ran off. Police want him to come forward in the hope he might know something that could help catch the offender, who was about 21. Now, Christmas carols rang out at Gorton Monastery yesterday for the first time in decades following its £6.5 million renovation. The spectacular building, built in the 1860s by Catholic Franciscan monks, is enjoying a new lease of life after it was shut down 20 years ago because of neglect and decay.
We're having a fabulous Christmas celebration concert here at the monastery, really to celebrate all that's been achieved in the last 12 months, as well as celebrate this wonderful time of year. If you imagine how this place used to be on a traditional Christmas, you know, this was a Franciscan church and friary with a vast population and in the surrounding streets. This place would have been absolutely packed out, standing room only throughout all the festival of Christmas.
You've overseen the project. What's been the hardest part?
I think the hardest part has been the waiting, you know, having to have the patience when we wanted it all to be done instantly and we could see the building falling apart and deteriorating, and we knew we couldn't do it straight away. We had to wait for lottery money, we had to do the fundraising. You know, it's been quite a job to raise the £6.5 million that we've needed, and of course we've still got work to do on the altars, so we will be fundraising here for quite some time to come, but the good thing is we can enjoy the building like today in the meantime.
The good news is these Christmas carols kick off the start of cultural events here, with every penny ploughed back into the restoration of this historic Franciscan monastery. Beverly Walkden for Channel M News.
Time now for the City Life entertainment news, which today comes from Steph and Rob's country retreat in Cheshire.
Welcome to your entertainment news. Well, myself and Robert are actually off work for the next couple of weeks, so we thought we'd bring you here to our Cheshire retreat, where we'll be spending Christmas time with our families, yes. The table is set behind us and we are raring to go, but Robert has just gone to the door.
Oh, I'm back now.
Oh, who was it?
The carol singers.
Oh.
10 minutes it takes them to walk up the drive. Only 5 when they've got the Alsatians behind them. And Dorothy's the choir mistress. She's 83 years old. She can go like the clappers.
Oh,
I'm telling you.
What a sight.
What have we got for them today, Steph?
Ice skating, yes. Very good I was, yes.
Apparently.
Hello, now I'm here in Manchester's Spooning Field on the brand new open air ice rink. I'm feeling very festival and nothing like a graceful swan at the moment, but it did launch on Tuesday night when Hollyoaks star and Dancing on Ice star Chris Fountain was here showing off. Well, there's my very, very quick lesson with Jen, and now I'm going to show you what I can really do on a... Yes. Yes, come on.
Was that you then? Because that was brilliant.
No.
You're not getting any practice down on the boating lake?
Well, I'm waiting for it to freeze over, Robert,
Okay.
before I try that one.
Christmas films?
Christmas films. Reese Witherspoon, 4 Christmases. It's the only one that's got Christmas in the title, really.
We just got to get through these 4 Christmases as quickly and as painlessly as possible.
Merry Christmas, Mom.
Hey, Dad.
Good to see you, Mom. Merry Christmas, Dad. Hey, these are my brothers, Denver and Dallas.
How can you really appreciate someone for who they are unless you know them?
My brothers, they're trained UFC fighters.
Soldier boy! Soldier boy! Well, give me a hug, Kate. Oh, okay. See you. And you must be Brad.
Miss Kincaid?
Oh, call me Marilyn and get over here and give me a hug, you big fat purple teddy bear.
Oh.
Bring it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Merry Christmas.
Oh. You're so tall and firm, like a giant oak.
It's tall.
Isn't he?
Brad, this is my Aunt Sarah. And this is my Aunt Donna.
Genuine leather.
Really nice to meet you, ladies.
That cute little canary down there hanging on your belt is Gram.
I'm sorry, Gram, but that's my belt. That's attached to me. I'm sorry. Merry Christmas to you. It's a great sweater.
I get it.
Nothing like the cinema at Christmas, is there?
And popcorn.
And music. So, Stephanie, you were left responsible for picking today's music, and it's got to be Christmassy. What is it?
Well, considering his fans are queued for 4 days for tickets for him
I know what's coming
to the MEN Arena next year, with the Shadows, it is, of course, Mistletoe and Wine. It's Sir Cliff.
Sir Cliff of Richard. Fabulous, fabulous.
It's Christmas time, mistletoe and wine, children singing Christian rhyme, with logs on the fire, gifts on the tree, a time to rejoice in the good that we see, a time for living, a time for believing, a time for trusting, not deceiving, love and laughter and joy ever after, ours for the
Been pretty grey across much of Greater Manchester, very cloudy and some rain in places. It'll carry on that way through the afternoon as well, just the odd brighter spell here and there, mainly in the south, but the clouds will become thicker through the evening and as we move through into tonight and tomorrow morning as well. Looking ahead to the rest of the week, and well, pretty dull for most of it. Wednesday will be the nicest day with the best of the sunshine and highs of 9. Christmas Day and Boxing Day, again pretty grey and cloudy. Temperatures falling as well as we get towards the end of the week, down to freezing point on Friday, wrap up warm. This is Channel M's Lunchtime News. Let's bring you up to date with some news just in. And a housing estate has been evacuated and a motorway closed after an explosion at a gas substation. More than 30 firefighters were called to tackle the resulting blaze in a ruptured gas main on Home Lane, Rottenstall in Lancashire. Houses on the Homewood Park estate were evacuated. The explosion happened at 10:20 this morning and police closed the M66 as a precaution. Nobody was injured by the blast. Let's check the rest of the headlines this lunchtime as well. And our other top story, an investigation is taking place after a young woman plunged 150 feet to her death from a luxury apartment block in Salford. The female, in her mid-20s, was the mistress of a wealthy property developer, but their affair had just ended. She fell from a 17-storey building in the Keys. A man who worked as a royal butler in the 70s and 80s is waiting to hear how long he'll be jailed for after admitting child sex offences. On one occasion, Paul Kidd from Stalybridge took one of the boys he'd been abusing for tea with the Queen Mum. He's already been warned to expect a prison term. That's all from me for this lunchtime. We'll have more with Andy Crane from 5 o'clock tonight, but from me and the Lunchtime team, have a good afternoon. Bye-bye for now.